Maybe you have a website, flyers. Maybe you have truck stops that are near where you live. Where do you guys live, by the way?
We're in Atlanta, and we do have a
Okay.
website. We
Okay.
did print out some flyers, and we did attempt to go to a truck stop, but I mean, it was our first try, and
Right.
you know,
Now,
we could use some pointers on that because all of them seem to be kind of irritated and not want to be bothered. So, I'm sure that our technique on that, if you can give
right.
some kind of guidance.
Well, go in. Maybe it's the different terminology that you may be using, like maybe not dispatchers, but maybe like say operate fleet managers or operations managers instead of dispatch. I guess for whatever reason, dispatchers has uh, left some of the bad taste in people's mouths. I guess because maybe they've been dealing with dispatchers who may not know what they're doing or just bad at what they're doing. They may not just understand the whole logistics part of being a dispatcher. So maybe you could say like fleet manager or fleet operator or operations manager. And then also, what about the different social media outlets?
Yes,
You
we did. We actually
like
sent out some ads through Facebook and Instagram.
okay. Now also LinkedIn. Now when I say social media too, maybe consider joining some like on Facebook for example, maybe joining some groups, some Facebook groups that are like owner operator groups, um, something like that. You got I'm part of like owner operators, Black Truckers United. There's different Facebook owner operator groups out there. Once you get past the point of being a member, then you can start soliciting or putting, not even soliciting, but putting out feelers and seeing, what everybody is talking about and then providing feedback for that.
Okay,
And then
yes.
go from there.
We have joined some groups, and we are on LinkedIn. And when we did our ad campaigns with Facebook and Instagram, there were several owner operators that said that they were interested. But then when they get the email with the carrier packet, and the agreement and the profile sheet, they don't, they're not sending them back.
Okay. There's been cases where when I first started, I had that issue too. So maybe on your website, you may consider creating some kind of an online form to kind of eliminate that process. So when you send them to the website, they can just fill it out online and submit, and it'll send you an email alert with the actual dispatch agreement profile. And then also on the website, the form that you use may also have the ability to upload documents that you need, because remember those other documents that most dispatchers, or let's not even use the word dispatcher tonight, let's say operations managers or fleet managers, remember those documents that we need when we book loads?
Right, yeah.
So what are they? What are those documents, right? Those are the W-9, the
W9,
the NOA, the W-9, NOA, certificate of insurance,
MC.
and the MC authority letter, right? So on your website, you can have a form that shows that. Like for example, I don't know if you've been to my website to see, but under carrier services, can you see am I sharing my screen, guys? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So under carrier services, I got two sublinks under there. One's the dispatcher agreement and one's the profile. So under the dispatch agreement, I just basically took the actual dispatch agreement form that everybody's used to seeing and put it into like a web form on the website, and just Nothing real fluffy, just basic and to the point. I mean, everybody know this is, whatever your company is, dispatcher agreement or whatever the name you want to name your contract, and then a little wordy verbiage expressing the 10% per book load, and then the person fills it out with their company name. Trucking information where it says, please list your MC, DOT, truck number, and trailer number. So you're getting from them everything that you're going to need anyway. So you're going to need those. You're going to need those things when you finally book a load, and the broker is saying, well, I need the driver of this load sale number and his truck and trailer number. So you can just refer back to your dispatch agreement and get that information.
Right.
And then where do they live, city, state, their email address, phone number, and then the terms. This little small verbiage here is basically, I just reworded it from the dispatch agreement and just put it into a paragraph and just called it terms and conditions. It's basically explaining everything that was on the dispatch agreement in this form. And then a little area here for them to type something, anything that they want to type, the date of the submission that they've submitted it, and then consent form. Basically them, the carrier, the owner, operator, truck drivers giving you consent to complete their carrier packets and their rate confirmations. So I just put it in and then here's my area where I can choose a file to upload a file. So, and it uploads the file, and then I can sign it, just right on the website. I'm going to clear that, but I'm just showing you that it can be done, and then you hit submit. And then the same thing for the profile. You do the same thing for the profile. And the forms are set up on the website to be associated with a particular email. So once they hit that submit button, whatever email is attached to that form that's integrated on your website that's where the completed dispatch agreement and completed profiles will be sent to, whatever email that you associated with that form account. So, and it's just a consideration to get to that point. That kind of eliminates the whole process of sending them a PDF attachment to an email to the carrier, and then hoping that they return it in a certain amount of time. It's the next step in the evolution of getting them to complete the dispatcher agreement and the profile.
Right. Yeah. We would love to add that to our website. We attempted to, but we weren't able to get it to work. We'll have to try to figure out. We have Wix.
So do I. This is Wix. This is built on the Wix platform, and this one's called Epic Builder. So if you go to, I'll show you. I'll literally show you how I did it.
Okay.
Like literally.
Thank you.
I log into my Wix back office. I'm sure you've seen this before, right?
Right.
And I just purchased the app. I'll do this. I'll go in. Okay, so now I'm in my back office area of my Wix website where I'm the webmaster, so I can do everything back here.
Yes.
And also, too, here's another feature, too, before I get started. Email marketing. You can do email campaigns with like MailChimp or even through Wix. They have a new email feature. I haven't really scheduled any campaigns or anything like that. I haven't delved into it. But what I would do is you would set the campaign up, and then you would plug in the emails of the carriers that you want to reach. And, of course, you get the emails off of like Truckers Path or whatever source that you're using to try to get to those carriers. Mainly, I know Truckers Path have emails on their sites where you go in there and get the truckers' information. So you build your campaign and how you want that campaign, that email campaign, to be structured, and then you plug in those emails and then let the email marketing campaign do its work. It does it for you. So it'll send it out however you schedule it, once every day or once every week, how often, what you want to say, and then it'll have triggers in it. So what a trigger is, based off of the initial response of the first email, like say I sent out my first email to a potential carrier's email address, based off of what they responded, whether they're interested, not interested, or send me more information, based off of that answer, there's a certain trigger that's going to give you another step or another response to them. So it's going back and forth between your email campaign and that potential carrier. So that's how email campaigns work. It works off of what's called triggers. So based off of a person's response, it'll give you the next steps in that process. So that's something else to consider. So in here in the back office, you go to edit your website, right?
Right.
So you've actually worked in the back area of Wix.
Yes, I created the website.
Okay. So, and I have no trouble with Wix. I've been using all the content and the videos and everything on the website. My website is built on the Wix.com's platform, and I haven't even scratched the surface with understanding all the bells and whistles of Wix. So, but
I think the website, just the basic website portion went smoothly. It was when we tried to add the feature where the carrier could fill out their information from our website.
Okay. So let me do something real quick. Here's some background noise. All right. So now, so in here, you go to your particular page. So my page where the form is on is under carrier services. So right here, you select the page, carrier services, and let's go to, let's say, dispatch agreement page. So now here is the Epics. This is the widget, the form widget that I use right here, so I can go here and edit this right there, or upgrade it, or whatever. But you get the form by adding the app. So you can search for apps right here. You can categorize it, and you can type in like forms, form builder, and here we go. So these are some of the ones that are in here. And then you just select. You got Wix Forms, 1, 2, 3 Form Builder. I had one called, I think it was called Epic Builder.
Okay.
If I remember the name. Yeah, there it is. Epic Form. That's mine right there, Epic Form Builder. So I purchased this one. It's already installed. This is the one that I use right now on this website. So it's a form builder application for anyone, easy to use, interface combined with rich set of features, including PayPal, signature pad, all that stuff. I can integrate PayPal in there. It has a signature pad, which I just showed you by signing it and then clearing it out. So it gives you, I think it gives you demos on how it works, the pricing, which is right here. You get a free package, a basic package, which is free, and what's included in the free package, and then the premium, which starts at $4.50 a month. And these are the features for the premium side.
Okay.
So both of them have the free basic package and the premium version. They both have the powerful form builder, which is the basic part of it. And then you got unique. Both of them have unique forms. Both of them have unlimited forms and unlimited fields. But then you get into with the premium, you get unlimited submissions, PayPal and others, and email submissions to emails. You can go into detail about that, what that is, and it'll explain it. Just anything you want to know about, you just open up and get the explanation of it. But this is the one that I use. But there are others. So you just go into your Wix apps market, and you can search any category. You can search for forms. You can search for, different Wix forms. All types of things in here. Social media stuff. Wix is a pretty good platform once you learn it, and there's different apps you can. There are a lot of free apps. Like I'm still playing with the chat portion of it because we used to have in Dispatcher 101 the Dispatcher 101 chat group on Facebook, but I'm trying to integrate it to the website, so I need to find which chat app can be integrated to the Wix website that'll be similar to what we had on the Facebook chat group, a live interactive chat where everybody can comment and things like that. So, but for whatever reason, Facebook eliminated the chat features for some groups as opposed to others. So I got other chat options here, And I've been playing with a few because if you notice on the website under Dispatcher 101, I have a chat link right there.
Right.
Once I log in, and I think everybody can log in as a guest, and we still can chat. But I don't think it's as interactive as I would want it to be. And I need to let's log into Facebook. I'll log on my Facebook name, on my chat, and you guys can try it too. So right here. So here's the chat group right here. There's been some activity a little bit, but I'm the only one logged in right now. But other people have been logging in trying to speak, so I'll type a message in here like hello, test or something. And then other people can go to the, but if you are an enrolled member in Dispatcher 101 and you go to that chat area, you would have to have a login to log in, and then you can, in order to test that feature, you go there like now and see if you can get in. Hit the chat, sign in with your sign in that you normally signed in with when you enrolled, and then see if you can comment there. And there will be our interactive, and it's private because it's only for members only. No one else. It's not on Facebook. No one else can get into it. It's only in this web portal. So I'm trying to make it even more interactive, where we can actually answer questions in here and talk and things like that. So I'm playing with different live chat apps that are integrated into the Wix website, the Wix portal. Like right here, I have one now installed. It's called Live Chat Room. I haven't used it in a while because I see it's still installed. I need to go. It's called Rumble Talk. I remember that one. So, but yeah, the website is yeah, see, Robert just joined the conversation. So right here in the chat. What's up, Robert? Yo, got your test. See, so he just signed and joined the conversation. So that's how. So we can actually communicate in the chat while we're in the live recording of the training. If you are an enrollee, you can log in and do that too. So, but yeah, so consider that as far as going back to your first question as far as getting the carriers and well, not even that, but the question was more like the marketing campaign portion of it. I had showed the form, you know, on the website with that, and then also email marketing campaigns, going to the truck stops, and then cold calling, of course. I don't know when your cold calling campaign is going to start with Wash. I don't know how many calls are going to be made and things. So what's the goal of the cold calling? Is to call as many carriers as possible in volume and then get them to sign up for a dispatcher agreement?
Right. And we've actually, before we signed up with Wash to do it for us, we actually have been calling carriers ourselves as well, and the majority of them sound really good when you're talking to them. Like, you know, they'll tell you to send them all the information, but they never send it back.
Right. So imagine if you had if you were in front of those same prospects with your online web form, and you were talking to them, and all you would have to do now is go here and just click and send the link, right? I can click right here on dispatcher agreement. One second. Let me mute Anonymous. Hello, Anonymous. And also 240, area code, Maryland. So I can, all I got to do now, if someone's interested and I talk to them on the phone, I can just copy this link for this one, the dispatch agreement, paste that to the email, and copy, or even a text message, copy that as well, the profile one as well right here, and paste. So it's just 2 links now. I'm going to send you 2 links that you can fill out real quickly and submit, and then we can get started, as opposed to attaching it to an email, a PDF,
right?
And hoping that they have a printer or have some kind of e-signature software like PDF filler or DocuSign or anything like that, that they can sign it, or you may have DocuSign yourself and then uploaded the PDF into your DocuSign and then created an area for them to sign and send it to over via email. So this could be another option for you right here, this online, where they can go straight to the website. In this area on my website, it doesn't require a login. It's open for anyone, as opposed to certain places on Dispatcher 101, I require a login because its information is just for members. Same with the freight broker side. So, but yeah, so this is that.
Okay.
So yeah, so just different marketing strategies. Right. Because the ultimate goal is, now what's the success rate? Has Wash given you like an analysis of his success rate as far as the call center? Like what percentage of his clients have gotten like carriers to say yes and get an agreement and actually return them? Or, because I've talked to Wash every now and then, but I'm not sure if he, because I wasn't even aware that he was still doing the call center. I thought he was doing more power only stuff. But
yeah, he still has the call center.
Okay.
Yeah, we signed up with them about a week and a half ago, and I guess with the holiday things have been really slow. So we've gotten like one so far, and then there are carriers that he has sent the agreements to, but we're still waiting for them to, sign them and send them back.
Okay, so I'm assuming that he's doing it more so on like a larger scale, more volume than you guys are. Something that you can do, but it's a greater scale.
Right.
Right. And then the technique that he's using to do that, he has a staff of sub-dispatchers or agents in the call center, and they must have some kind of integrated system that they're using, telephony system that's dialing out and things like that, so keeping track of analytics and all this stuff. So that, with the call center, you have to consider all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, but I would still keep doing it yourselves, because there's no greater joy in getting that experience yourself, because you don't want to get too far out of the loop of doing it. Because what happens when you have to talk to a broker or a shipper, you're not going to send that task to a call center. You're going to want to do that yourself.
Right.
To keep that that experience. Now I'm not trying to discourage you from using a call center by no means. I'm just saying, it's always good to keep that in your back pocket, that skill set.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we were just getting his help so that we can go ahead and get started faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I gotta call some of my carriers to see where they are, and because I haven't dispatched some of my carriers in a while, I'm going to see where they are and if they're needing loads, and I'm just going to start giving, I wanted to do that commission split with some of my carriers with some of you guys who are like really ready and wanting to get this experience of actually finding loads. And say, for example, I thought one of my carriers says, okay, yeah, send me one of your sub-dispatchers, Charles. I want to see if they can find some loads for. I want to test them out. So are you guys in a place where you're actually prepared to find a load and book a load and that whole process? Have you gotten yourself trained up to that level?
Yes. Well, we've actually, we have sub-dispatchers that we have hired. So we're trying to, build our business. And they're just waiting right now for carriers.
Okay, so... And then they're going through like formal training, and have they had the experience? So they haven't had the experience of actually booking a load. They're just preparing themselves to get ready for that.
Well, a couple of our sub-dispatchers are actually owner-operators, and their own loads, so they're very experienced.
Okay. Now, what equipment type are these owner?
One of them has a dry van, and the other one, I know she's worked with Hot Shots. I think she's also done maybe some flatbeds and maybe dry vans as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I will see. I will probably see some of my carriers and see what's going on with them, and see what we can do about finding loads for the carriers. I may call Smooth and see where he's at. 'Cause I haven't talked to him in a while. He used to deal with Lawanda, and Lawanda's very busy now. She's just she took it and ran with it, literally.
That's great.
She has her own team, her own staff, and she does power onlys and other contracts. So, and see, that's the next evolution in dispatching. Once you learn the dispatching process, and it's like you go from crawling to walking. Now your next entrepreneurial venture in this is contracts, locking in contracts, and then putting carriers in those contracts, like steady, dedicated loads, like what I'm doing, like trying to do with the IKEA thing and other shippers and stuff like that. So, because once you learn the dispatching overall, it's like, okay, that's the easy part now. You booked your load and you've done it a few times. So because it's repetitious, the process is repetitious. The only thing that change are the players, right? The different types of carriers on one side, and then the different types of brokers and shippers on the other side. But the actual process of doing it is the same. You get the carrier under agreement. You see what their profile dictates, how they want their loads and what cents per mile. You find those loads either through a direct shipper or on the load boards, mainly starting out with the load boards, because you're not going to have a relationship with a shipper starting out. So your load board is going to be your best friend. And once you do that, you see a load that meets the criteria of the profile of your carrier with whom you have a dispatcher agreement with. Then you call that broker that's associated with that load that your carrier wants. You start that dialogue between you and the broker, asking about the load and getting as much details as possible so you can convey that to your carrier so they can make an informed decision as to whether they really want that load or not. And if they say yes, now you go back to the broker and say, okay, let's book this load. Then you go through the process of getting them the information they need to look your carrier up to see if they are either set up with that brokerage already, or if they need to set up with that brokerage via a carrier packet, a setup packet. So in either case, once that's completed and all the other documents associated with that process is sent in, the broker processes that, sends it to their compliance team for approval, carrier gets approved, the load gets booked. The broker, sends you a rate confirmation for you to sign or your carrier to sign, depending on the relationship with you and your carrier, whether they allow you to sign the rate confirmation starting out or not. Once that sign is sent back in, then the load is officially booked. And then now you just watch that load from the time it's picked up from the shipper to the time it's delivered to the receiver. Also, too, as a good dispatcher will know, once that load is picked up from the shipper, I am actually looking for the next load for that carrier, because that load's already so he or she is under a load. So if he picks up a load, what do you think I'm doing? I'm looking at their delivery destination to the receiver and seeing if I can find something within a certain amount of deadhead going to another area that's going to be paying well, number one, and number two is able to get them out of that area. Because, even just because something's paying good doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for you, because you can send somebody to an area that's paying pretty well, but then you get stuck in that area. It's like a dead zone. You won't be able to get out, and you may be sitting there for 2 or 3 days, and what that means is you're losing money. So I'd rather send you to a less paying area but can get out of it to another paying load than to send you into a good paying area, but you're stuck for like a few days, maybe even a week. It just doesn't make economic sense. It doesn't make economic sense. So let's do a scenario in that process as far as how does the process of dispatching work? I'm sure some people have a question about that whole process. But let's choose I'm gonna choose a load board. Let's choose as a group an equipment type, and then let's choose an an area of the country that we feel that there's good freight moving for that equipment type, and then let's try to find 3 good loads for that carrier, like either in a triangular thing or something that keeps them running for a week, and see if we can come up with that process. Someone had a comment here. Let's see. Robert, I heard you. I got your message, Robert. All right. Who is area code 240?
Mike Mack.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Hey, but Charles, keep me muted. I'm at work, bro. I'm supposed to be talking.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you. Okay, I just muted Mike. So let's go to our, because I wanted to keep it an hour because I wanted to. It's been a long day. I want to get a break, get some rest. But okay, is Mrs. Ernest is still on? Is she unmuted, Mrs. Ernest?
I'm here.
Okay, so how would you? I think you understand this process, though. Have you actually booked a load?
I have not, but I do understand the process.
Okay. So I'm curious to know, do I need to run through this process or not, man, if you understand it? What about Rose J311 at Yahoo? I think I remember that name. Rose J.
Hey, Charles, how you doing tonight?
Good evening. This is Rose.
Yes.
How are you? Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just doing a 1 hour kind of a Q&A thing right now for tonight. Do you have any questions that you may have, or any pain points that you're working on?
Yes, I'm going over the videos that you've done the last couple of weeks, and I noticed that you were talking to a guy, and the question I want to ask is when the insurance, when you send the package to the carrier, and they have to sign the policy over to the broker, am I right, and not to the dispatcher?
So you're saying
the person who's holding the insurance.
Okay, so you're talking about the certificate of insurance and the certificate holder feature on that certificate of insurance. That's what you're talking about?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So on the certificate,
name go down and if I hurt. Go ahead.
The dispatcher's name does not go down there in some cases, and in other cases it does. Mainly when dealing with the broker is going to ask to be made the certificate holder on the certificate of insurance of the carrier. What that means is that the name of the brokerage, their street address, city, state, and zip need to be listed at the bottom. As a matter of fact, let me bring up one. Certificate of insurance. Let's go to forms and documents. So when you are booking a load through a broker for your carrier, and the broker says, "Hey, by the way, I'm on the certificate of insurance. Can you list us?" This is their verbiage. Can you list us as a certificate holder? In other words, they want to be a certificate holder on that insurance while your carrier is under the load for that broker. That's all that means. And it's not an ongoing thing. Once that load is gone, once that load is fulfilled and is booked, and it's delivered and it goes away and it's paid, that goes away. They're no longer a certificate holder on the insurance. It's just for that occasion. But here is the certificate of insurance. Can you see my screen? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So at the bottom, right here where it says certificate holder. This is where the broker wants the name of their, like Coyote Logistics or TQL 123 Main Street, Anywhere USA 12345. This is where you, as the dispatcher, you will call the agent that's associated with this certificate of insurance, and this is where their contact information will be. You'll call that agent and say, hey, I need a certificate of insurance listing the following brokerage as a certificate holder. And then they'll say, okay, well, what's the name of the brokerage? You'll give them that name. As you, in some cases, as you're giving it to them, they're actually typing or putting it into their computer, and then they're going to say, okay, we got it. Who do we need to send this to? You have them email it to you because you are the middle person between your carrier and the broker. So you receive it from me. Sometimes what I used to do, I used to have them send it to me and CC at the broker agent who I'm working with on that particular load. So that way I have a copy and they have a copy. The reason I do that is because they see that it's coming directly from the insurance company. So it gives it a little bit more authenticity. You see what I'm saying? As opposed to coming from me, the dispatcher, or the operations manager, or the fleet manager. It's coming directly from the insurance company which produced the certificate of insurance for that carrier. If they see that, okay, it carries more weight. So now they take that along with the MC authority letter and the W-9, and they, again, put it into their TMS system, their transportation management software, and run the numbers and run it by their compliance team for approval to make sure that the carrier meets all the requirements to get set up with that brokerage. And then they go from there and say, okay, you're set up, or no, you're not set up, and here's the reason why. And then you just go back to your carrier and say, okay, well, let's plug these holes and see why you're not eligible right now. Maybe your insurance expired. Maybe you need to renew your authority. Maybe your MCS 150 on your authority is expired. Whatever the reason, you fix the problem and you come back to them to get it approved and set up with that brokerage to run that load. But the certificate holder feature on the certificate of insurance is where the broker lists them. They have you list them, because if you wasn't dispatching for this carrier, they would just ask the carrier directly to list the brokerage, list us as a brokerage on the certificate of insurance. But since you are the dispatcher, the middle person between your carrier and the broker, you're doing all the administrative work for your carrier, because this saves a lot of time for the carrier. If you can handle getting them set up with the carrier packet, which involves all of this stuff, the rate confirmation, and maintaining loads for them, then that in and of itself is worth 10%. So, but again, here is the area where the broker will be listed as a certificate holder on the certificate of insurance. Right there. The name of the broker, street address, city, state, and zip, and that's pretty much it. That's all it means to be listed as a certificate holder. So whenever you hear that, well, what does it mean to be listed as a certificate holder? That's all it means. You go to the certificate of insurance of your carrier, and there should be an area, usually at the lower left, that says certificate holder, and that's where it's placed. And you get that by calling the agent that's assigned to, or the producer. The producer is the insurance company. The insured right here is the actual carrier or trucking company who has the insurance policy. And the agent that's assigned with that producer company is the one that you're going to communicate with, calling them and say, hey, I need a certificate of insurance listing the following brokerage as the certificate holder. And they'll say, okay, what's the name of that person or that company? And you give it to them, ABC Brokerage, again, 123 Main Street, Anywhere USA, 12345. They'll say, okay, who do I need to email or fax this to? You give them your information, they send it to you, and you say, oh yeah, by the way, can you CC or carbon copy that brokerage in as well? And they'll be more than happy to do it. So, all right?
Okay, that makes sense. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You are welcome. Any other questions? That's not uncommon, though. I mean, most people, when they hear that I want to be listed as a certificate holder, may not know where to look, and it's usually on the certificate of insurance, basically right there. And you just got to call the agent that's associated with, the producer is the insurance company. The agent works for that company. So you just call them and let them know that you need a new certificate of insurance listing the following as a certificate holder, and go from there. So.
I need to ask one more question.
Go ahead. I can barely. Let me see.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if I can hear some background noise. Give me 1 second. Is this Miss Ernest? Oh, Rose. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah. This Miss Rose?
I have one more. Yes, I have one more question.
Okay, what's your question?
You're saying it's better to use the term as a fleet manager and not a dispatcher anymore. Can you tell me the reason why you're switching like that?
Well, I'm not saying completely eliminate the use of the term dispatcher, but as you conversate with brokers or even carriers, you're going to get a feel of them. You're going to get some kind of aura about because most people don't like the word dispatcher because they feel that some people, they've had a bad experience with a dispatcher. They left a bad taste in their mouth. Well, you can use dispatcher. That's fine. You can let them know that you're an independent freight dispatcher or an operations manager or a fleet manager. You basically are responsible for maintaining loads and finding loads for your carriers. That's your service, and you charge for that service, a percentage of the load. So but you just got to put that in a way. You have to campaign that in a way that convinces the carrier that they need your service. So last training we went over maybe dispatchers may have to. Well, I don't want to say may have to, but if a dispatcher understands the expenses of the carriers that they're dealing with, more than likely a carrier would be more than willing to deal with you if you could understand, how much their fuel is going to be for a particular load. Like we gave examples of what a load was paying, what the rate was, how many miles it went, and we determined how much fuel that was. And then we took that out of the final pay of that load and to see how much money that carrier truly made after the expenses was paid, after the fuel was paid for, and then after the 10% was taken out for the dispatcher. This is what you're actually bringing home. So if you can have an understanding of that and kind of like throughout the dialogue between you and that potential carrier, show them in a way that you understand that, they'll be more than, willing to, there's a greater chance that they'll consider you as a dispatcher because they know that you know your numbers. But back to your point as far as the word dispatcher, I mean, it's not a bad word. Some people think it's just those people who give the impression that it left a bad taste in their mouth may have had a bad experience with a dispatcher who wasn't trained up to the level that they understood what their service was, how they were supposed to provide a service to that carrier. So, and that may have been that carrier's last experience with a quote-unquote dispatcher. So going forward, any other dispatcher that tries to come to them and solicit their service, they're basing their response to that current dispatcher off of their past experience. And that's not fair to us or fair to the next dispatcher based off of the experience of the previous dispatcher. But if you happen to get to one that'll give you an opportunity, then you just go ahead and prove yourself through your skill set and what you know and the service that you can provide. But I'm not telling you to eliminate using the word dispatcher, by no means, because that's what we're doing. We're actually dispatching. But there are synonymous terms to dispatcher. That's all. Dispatcher, fleet operations, operations manager. Whatever word that fits that particular scenario at that time, that's the word you use. Whether it's dispatcher, whether it's fleet manager, operations manager, whichever word gets you across that threshold of getting that carrier to say, hey, yeah, send me the dispatcher agreement or send me your agreement or your contract. Let's work. Let's see what we can do for each other. All right?
Okay, I had to unmute myself. I had the noise in the background with you heard. I have one more question. I'm gonna let you.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Now,
Go ahead. It's fine.
I know I'm trying to catch up. I read it down. I was watching one of the videos that on the platform that you was on. I think it's Aura G or something like that. And he mentioned that dispatchers doesn't supposed to be using the word negotiate. And
Okay,
I know that.
Start over again now.
Can you please clarify that? Can you clarify that for me? One of the platforms that you was on, that you said you came off of, I seen one of the videos. And the guy had mentioned that being a dispatcher, we don't supposed to be using the word negotiating the prices because we're not a broker. Can you please clarify that for me? Because I see that every
we are not brokers, but what we do negotiate prices. When you go back to the broker and say, for example, you find a load for a carrier and the load is $2,000, and then you charge 10% for your service for finding that load and helping the carrier get booked and processed with the Raycon, things like that. Basically what a dispatcher does. So 10% of $2,000 is $200. So in order for you to make your $200 and the carrier to keep their $200, then you would just go back to the broker and say, okay, we got this load we see the load is posted for $2,000, but we want 22 or 2,300 for it. Now, without saying negotiating, that's exactly what you're doing. And the purpose of it is to keep the money in the carrier's pocket, the whole $2,000, and adding your 10%, 200 on top of that, getting that from the broker side. Now, saying it and doing it is two different things. But if you were not to do it and you just booked a load, and you tell the carrier, well, I'm charging 10% of what I booked the load originally for, $200, so they're getting only $1,800 and you're getting $200. So in essence, it's more of a deceiving thing, because if you're advertising or soliciting your service saying, okay, I'm going to book loads for you, my rate is 10%, but I don't take no money out of your pocket, I get it from the broker side, but then you turn around and don't do that, that's more of a deceptive practice than saying that presumably, quote unquote, negotiating, which is what, I mean, you are negotiating, but you're not saying you're negotiating, you're actually doing it. We negotiate every day, I mean, in anything, not just in dispatching or brokering, but just because you negotiate a rate higher than what the rate is posted for on the load board doesn't make that illegal. That's not an illegal practice. Now, when you're posting loads and you're acting as you first have to understand what the role of a broker is and what the role of a dispatcher is. And if you cross that line as a dispatcher into the realm of a broker, then it's an issue. But negotiating and trying to get more money out of the broker side to keep the money in the pocket for your carrier and to make a living for yourself, I see nothing wrong with that, absolutely.
That makes sense, you said. Thank you. I appreciate that. You clarified. Because I was trying to figure out, how can you negotiate? Not using the word, don't use the word, use something else. But the word is negotiate. And like I said, I've seen it, and that's what I was thinking it is, but we are not supposed to be using the word. We're going to be smart enough to go around the circle of it, but still do the same thing.
Well, and you think about it, let's use a little humor with this a little bit. The dispatcher is the middleman between the broker and the carrier, right?
Yes.
The broker is the middleman between the shipper and the carrier, right?
Yes.
Right. So we have the same role. It's just that the broker has a more, I guess you would say, graduated level. I mean, dispatchers are, in a sense, I don't want to say they are brokers, but if you are a middleman in between anything, you're brokering, you're negotiating, you're doing that because if you're going, so I'm in the middle, I'm a dispatcher. I'm going to a carrier, getting them under contract, and then I'm going to the broker and trying to book the load. So I'm just trying to get you to, just to look at that for a sense. Just like in real estate, like I'm involved in real estate, like it was called, like when you flip houses, wholesaling. So you go to a motivated seller who's willing to sell their house for below market value. So you go to them, you get them under contract, and then you find a buyer and assign that contract to the buyer for a fee. It's the same thing that we're doing in dispatching. So that you can plug in any scenario. It seems like it's the same thing. We're the middle people. Like I'm the middle, like a broker or a dispatcher. Yeah.
I understand it being the same, but it's the term. We don't supposed to use
right. It's the term, like negotiating. Yeah, I would get that out of my mind. I would just say, look, I'm just trying to get as much money out of the broker's pocket for my carrier while I'm making my money at the same time. So if the load is posted for $2,000, then my goal is to keep that load. If that's what the carrier is expecting, then my question becomes, okay, well, if he's expecting $2,000 and I'm a dispatcher, how am I going to make my 10%? I have to get it from the broker side, or else I'm going to be taking money out the carrier's pocket, and at some point the carrier is going to realize that and say, okay, well, man, I'm losing money messing with you. Why did I hire you to help me with loads if you say you charge 10%, but it's coming out of my pocket as opposed to, because when I talk to carriers for the first time and get them under a dispatch agreement, I convince them and say, look, this is what I do. If I find a load that's $3,000 and 10% of that is $300, I'm gonna go back to the broker and get 33 or 35, and that way you keep your $3,000 and I make my 10%. He said, yeah, well, okay, you're basically working for free. Well, I'm not working for free, maybe in your eyes because you're not losing money, but I'm getting the money from the broker side, which I should be anyway because they're charging too much to begin with. I should say charging too much, but they're taking too much off the top to begin with. So.
Okay, I got to understand that. I appreciate that. So really, the carrier shouldn't. Would the carrier see the amount that you're getting from them on the paperwork? Will that show up on the paperwork when the broker send them the invoice?
The carrier,
your card and.
No, the carrier, because remember, you're invoicing the carrier at the end. Once the carrier is paid, you're invoicing them for 10%. So let's use that $3,000 scenario. So $3,000, the load was posted, and then we got a rate con for $3,300, right? So he saw a rate con for $3,300. She's like, whoa. I thought the load was $3,000. So yeah, but you got a rate con for $3,300, so that covered my 10%. So when I invoice you after you deliver the load, I'm going to invoice you for the $300 or whatever that amount is, $3,530. So the rate con was $3,500, $3,300, whatever. So 10% of that is $330 or $350 or whatever that total amount is. So they see that they're keeping the majority of their money as opposed to it being taken away from them. So Robert made a good point there in the comments there too in the chat. The broker is holding holding the cards, if they can get 17 to 25%, they will do it. So what Robert is saying is, if they can get 17 to 25% of the target rate that the shipper initially sells the load for. So you follow that? So if the shipper has a target rate of let's say $5,000. So let's say the broker charges 20% of that. Initially, they'll take 20% off the top, $5,000. So they'll take $1,000 off the top, and then they'll resell that load for $4,000. So they already got $1,000 in their pocket, and they got $4,000 to play with the carriers to even try to take extra money from, try to negotiate it down to instead of $4,000, maybe $3,800, maybe $3,700, maybe $3,500. So they're trying to get an extra $500 in addition to the $1,000 they already took off the top. So this is how brokers operate. So if, as a dispatcher, knowing that, then our goal would be to position our carriers not in front of brokers, but over time position them in front of the direct shippers. That way, that target rate of $5,000 all goes to the carrier, of course, minus your 10%. So it'd be like $4,500 now because you get $500 from the $5,000 at 10%. So it's a numbers game, but you're going to need brokers starting out. But the ultimate goal is to position yourself away from brokers and to get directly into dedicated freight dealing with direct shippers. So. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you, Charles. It did kind of noise back here. So we're
Oh, that's cool. Any other
questions?
questions? No problem.
No, into it. You explained it well. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Any other questions about that, or any other type of questions? How is Miss Rose? How are you working on actually getting the carriers?
No, not right now. I was thinking about going up on your website and look at your proposition. Working on it for a while till I get comfortable with it.
Sub-dispatching?
Yes, your sub-dispatching. I'm looking at doing that before I try to do it on my own so I can get comfortable with it. Because I'm just not.
The only issue is I got to get some of my carriers. I need to get them lined up to say that they want. Some of the carriers are so comfortable with me or some other people that we're dealing with, and then so what I might do is just reinvent the wheel and just get brand new carriers under Exodus, and then just assign those carriers to sub dispatchers, and then we split the commission. And when I say split the commission, we split the 10%, 5 and 5, and then as over time, as you, the sub dispatcher under Exodus, book more and more loads, then that percentage will change from 50-50 to like 60-40 your way, 70-30 your way, and the cap might be 80-20. That might be the cap. So you may get 80% of the loads, and then I get 20% of that 10%. You get 80% over time. So, but starting out, because you have to prove yourself, I've never seen anyone, dispatched. Only person that I had that was pretty consistent with it was LaWanda. She was every time I come home, there was a rate confirmation in my email. That's how consistent she was. So if I get sub dispatchers who have that same level of understanding, commitment, drive, and things like that, but that comes in time, right? And I'm willing to hold a person's hand, walk them through that first booking from the time. So the first phase or the first module is eliminated. If I provide the carrier, then that first module is eliminated. You don't need to do a carrier acquisition because we already have one. So now the next module will be now finding and booking the loads, getting that dialogue with the broker and understanding that process. And now get to a point if I can have the time. I'm literally running out of time, but when I do have time, I can pretty much do like a one-on-one and actually we call the broker together, start that conversation, and you get to hear me talk to them, and then you can get to a point where you feel comfortable. Then you can start talking to them, and I'll play the back role. And then if you get stuck in an area, then I'll just jump in and say, this is what we mean, and this is what we're talking about, and kind of break it down. And then, so it's good to have someone in your corner like that. So you get past that stage, book the load, and then you get the rate comp, and then now you have a load that you're under, and then now how do you keep that carrier running and consistent and moving, right? So they pick up one load from the shipper, take it to a receiver. While they're on their way to the receiver, you are working on their next load, right? That's the whole process of, dispatching. You're finding that next load, and then what are the strategies involved in that? Of course, you want to know what the trends are, the market for that particular equipment type, what's hot, and what's hot in certain areas, where those areas are, and can my carrier get to those areas and get out at a decent rate? And then those trend lines and those hot areas change weekly. So as a dispatcher, you need to be up on that whole process and that whole scenario, knowing what commodities are hot where for what equipment type, and positioning your carrier to those areas. And again, the other statement I said earlier, just because a load is paying real well going to a particular place doesn't mean it's going to have a load for you coming out. Like, for example, for certain equipment types, they pay well going from north down into Florida, but it may take a few days to get out. So a few days could be a few $1,000s. So you basically just went to Florida for free. You cover fuel. So sending your carriers to certain areas at certain times will be ideal, but understanding that over time, and then understanding the concepts of seasonal freight for certain equipment types like reefers, like the produce seasons, the beverage seasons, certain areas of the country for certain equipment types for reefers, for example, it's like over in the Pacific Northwest for the Washington apples or the Idaho potatoes or onions or lumber. So you need to know, get to understand that, what resources we use to do that and how that's done, so just different things like that. But the first step is to actually book that first load, understand that process, and then duplicate that process. But understand not to send the carrier to certain areas that they're not going to be able to get out of. Because a lot of dispatchers do that. They'll send a carrier to an area that's hard to get out of, and then the carrier will become discouraged with the dispatcher because they feel that, well, you may not know what you're doing. You got me this high paying, this $3,500 load going down here, but I got to wait 3 days to get a $200 or $500 load to get out to another load. So I made $3,700 in 7 days, which is that's not a good paying week for a carrier. They're trying to make anywhere between $6,000 and $8,000, maybe even $10,000 a week. So for a certain equipment type. So then you have to know what that scenario is too. What equipment type pays what per week, so you'll know how to work those numbers as well. So Mike just texted me, said, hey, Charles, I need to know about that shipper percentage for bringing them in the network. Oh, okay, yeah. Which one, Robert? I got a few carriers in Texas, to be honest with you. You can unmute yourself, Robert.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a little bit under the weather, Doc. But
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the one that was said it was kind of hard to understand them.
Oh, you talking about in Virginia? You talking about oh, Dad, what was his name? Carter,
yeah.
Carter Edwards, yeah. He lives in Appomattox, Virginia.
Yeah, I don't want
Matter of fact, I think he has a reefer. I think he has a reefer now. Let me call him.
Really? I thought he was switched over to box. I thought.
No, he started off with a dry day, and then he went to doing some port work. I think it was working the ports for a while because he got discouraged with the rates out here. Then he went to reefer. Let me call. Let me see if he might be late. He lives in Appomattox, Virginia, but yeah, he talks like with a real fast and with an accent. He may call me back. Maybe sleep. Doing his reset.
I'm sorry, the person you are trying to reach has a voicemail box that has not been.
Maybe sleep doing his reset or whatever. Let's hear from an old friend though. Everybody know who Smooth is. I just want to get an idea what's going on out here in these streets, as we used to say.
Yo, what's up, man?
What's going on, Smooth?
Oh, man, you too hard to keep up with, bro. What's good?
That ain't me, man. That's you, man.
Oh, no, that ain't me. I was trying to hit you up. I don't get no response. I'm like, well, we probably caught up in the yeah, so, you know what I mean?
Well, how's it going out there, man? What's the rates looking at? Are they going up, going down for reasons?
I mean, no, since this guy's in office, you know, they kind of shit right now, but I'm working with what I can work.
So for the reefer, are they over $2 or?
I mean, for me it is, but I got a certain lane.
Okay.
I started banging with these dudes at the T.
Okay. Okay.
You know
So
what I mean?
you found something.
Yeah.
You might be able to work a broker angle with that. If that lane is consistent, you might be able to do a broker and put other trucks in that lane and make some money like that too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like thinking for self right now that the race is so horrible. Like, I'm not even putting another truck in there. I mean, I'm ready to maybe hopefully within the next 2 years, I'll be out of the game completely.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm tired. It's been almost 13 years already. About it. I've been talking to people like, yeah, man, I got 22 years and I got 50 years. I'm like, God damn, I can't see how you did that, especially with these rates.
Everybody say hi to Smooth. I'm in class tonight, so.
Oh man, you running the class, right? Yeah, let me know that.
That's cool. Everybody know who you are. Everybody knows who you are. Hey, I'm gonna tell you what are you trying to do? Because I got a proposition. I want to depends on what you're trying to do after you get out the truck in 2 years.
Actually, I'm writing scripts now.
Okay.
Yeah, I got like a movie in my head. I haven't finished the script. The script ain't done. Probably beginning of the summer, and then I got to set up everything. I got to get the Apple computer, a 4K camera. I got to get me a green screen and things like that. I'm gonna start pushing that. I'm gonna still be in the business until that picks up a little bit.
Okay, because I was thinking of more of a like an online learning kind of platform for you, because your 13 years carries a lot of weight. You could actually show people from a trucking side how to actually all the steps from A to Z of how to start a trucking company. Everything that you need, all the bumps they're going to run into, and how to avoid those bumps from based off of your. You see what I'm saying? So people.
Yeah, I see where you're going with it.
Yeah.
It's this. Like, if you don't already have your setup like by now, like, it's really, really hard. You're going to put out a lot of money, and then you're not going to make no money on the back end of it.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Only guys are profiting in it, and they're even thinking of because all the terrorists that's got put on. You know, this guy put terrorists on, I think it was France.
You talking about the orange dude?
Yeah, the orange guy.
The orange guy.
Put 100% terrorists on France. like nothing's really moving, man. So right now, the rates are like down. I'm like pretty much dodging. I'm seeing a little bit over $2, but that's because of who I'm with.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you look at that, you look at the boards lately.
I have, about the last few days, checking the trend lines and see what's going on. Yeah. So if you're not, so the spot market is kind of down, with people just getting all their loads from the load board. That's the spot market. But if you're looking at like the other markets, like with contracts and dedicated freight, that's where the money is more so than the spot markets, because the spot markets, brokers are just throwing loads up there that they're just trying to get rid of, that they're hard to get rid of.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not fighting for that. I got a load tomorrow. I think it's paying like $3.33 per mile.
Wow, $3.33. Woo!
Yeah, per mile. And I got that, through my contacts. I don't know that old girl, but no matter to her.
Yeah. Man, $3.33. So yeah, see, so that's that. I mean, I wouldn't go anywhere. Dedicated lanes, you well above the spot market. Well, almost twice, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really horrible. I remember it was California lane coming back to Boston paid damn near 12, anywhere from 9 to 12 grand.
Wow.
Now you might be seeing flowers. You might be seeing 6.
So California to the East Coast are almost 12 grand. So that's a 3-4 day run. So you make it 12 grand like man.
Yeah, I mean that's when it was up. But since he put the tariffs on, four major potato farms, then they stuff off. They pretty much went out of business. They had to file bankruptcy.
Yeah, I didn't know that part now. Because
four major potato farms.
So so what one person does can affect the whole economy, and that like tariffs can, because tariffs are tax on imports. So it makes it harder for those products to get into the country. And if they can't get into the country, that means there's nobody in the country that can transport them to their locations.
Exactly.
So
hopefully, he got an election coming up, so hopefully he'll be up out of there pretty soon for guys like us that's in the transportation business that feed our families with this line of work. You know what I mean? It's just horrible. I can see a tariff every now and again if you can't get your way with, another country in for the tax, whatever they could.
Yeah.
This tariff been on since the beginning of this year.
Yeah, and so he's going through an impeachment inquiry as we speak. So I mean,
yeah, they need to get his ass up out.
Yeah, yeah. So are you at home now or?
No. Actually, I'm in where am I? I'm in North Carolina. I got a load in Georgia. Drop that off of Georgia and head up to pick up in Georgia and then head to Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed you in Norfolk, Virginia.
Oh man, I almost got stranded out there, bro. I had a whole ass about it. Got a load, got a body there.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You were literally 3 miles from me when I think you were at Big Charlie's on Northampton Boulevard.
Somewhere, man. I had so many spots I be forgetting names.
Yeah. So.
Oh man, I'm honestly trying to get up out of here.
All right, brother. I'm not gonna hold you up, brother. Let me get finished with the class.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that was one of the carriers. He said the spot market's he's making $3.35, I think he said, off of a load, but he has a dedicated lane. His dedicated lanes are more than the spot market. A spot market rate is what you see on the load boards. Those are spot market rates because they're brokered loads. So does anybody have a question about what the difference between that is? Contracted rates and spot market rates.
Could you give more information or explain it, please?
Yes. So let me see the chat here. Did you ever forward those shippers' contact out of New Jersey? Oh, I did not, Robert. I was looking at Robert's response. So a spot market rate is what you see on the low. I'll give you the high level. Spot market rates are what's the lows that are posted on the load boards. They're just spot loads. Well, some of these loads are hard to get rid of. Brokers just post them on the load boards. Some of them look attractive from the beginning when they post it, but when you call brokers for more details, then you start to discover that they may be like 2 or 3 extra stops. They may be like a lot of detention time, just a lot of nonsense with the load. But it's a spot market load. They need to get out right on the spot, right? But contracted market, a contracted market is like dedicated lanes, what Smooth is dealing with right now. And they pay pretty well. They pay a high level of cents per mile, and they only go a certain number of miles. Like he may have a $3.33 mile load, cents per mile, and it may go maybe 1,000 miles. So that's $3,300. So, but he's hooked up with a certain lane with certain shippers. So you tend to stick to those more so than the spot market. Now you may need a spot market load to get you back to your money load. Remember I said like the line haul and back hauls? You need brokered loads to get you back to your money load. Like if you're on a dedicated lane and you have a lane one way, it's paying pretty good going down like north to south or east to west or in whatever direction, to get you back to your money load, you may have to find a brokered load on the load board to get you back to your money load just to pay for your fuel, right, even, or maybe make a little money. That's a spot market load. Anything that's coming off the load board is a spot market load. I don't want to say anything or all, but the majority of them are spot market loads. They're brokered loads coming off the load boards. Contracted loads are the ones that are dedicated, coming from direct shippers or companies that specifically pay you to run loads or freight or commodities in a particular lane. Okay?
Thank you.
You are very welcome. But he was talking about getting out in a few years because he said the spot market the rates are crazy. And he mentioned something about tariffs. And what tariffs are taxes on imports. So when other foreign countries try to ship their goods to this country, they are taxed. You have to pay a certain tax to be allowed to import your goods into the country to sell. So like Sony, all these foreign products that we get over here, Sony's a good one that sells like television products, electronics and things like that. So, and they're coming from like Taiwan, China, Japan. So they're taxed for having that stuff shipped on those cargo ships from their origin country to the U.S. There's a certain amount of tax. So the Trump administration has raised the tariffs, which makes it harder for those countries to ship those products to this country for sale, which affects the transportation industry because there's less commodities to transport across the country. So you see how one act or activity can affect an overall demographic or an overall market or industry, the transportation industry. So high tariffs slows down or even almost eliminates the number or the volume of goods not services, but goods coming into our domestic country from foreign countries. So there's less commodities to sell, and there's less freight to move. So there's less traffic out there on the roads. So now that affects it in a way. If there's less traffic, then brokers, they can charge whatever they want to charge because the supply and demand and the basis of economics is such that they can charge whatever, and carriers will almost have to take it because if they still want to be carriers and make money for their families, they have to just take what's available. But now let's say the tariffs were lowered and then it opened up the floodgates for more goods to come into the country from other countries. So now you have an influx of products that are coming in, cargo ships, and then hit the ports and getting picked up on those ports from the power only tractors, taken to the warehouses or distribution centers, and then they're distributed throughout the countries with the tractor trailers. So now the economy is booming again, all because of one act, the lowering of the tariffs, the taxes on the tariffs. So it's a ripple effect in either direction, whether you have higher tariff tax or lower tariff tax. It affects it in a positive or a negative manner. Right now, there are higher taxes on tariffs, which is the ripple effect of having a negative impact on the economy because less goods are coming in, which means there's less traffic flow on these interstates for the carriers, which means there's no money being made. So hopefully that was explained a little bit. But that's the bigger picture. See, we're just dispatchers, but if you see the overall picture of how it can affect you, it's hitting the carriers' pockets a little bit harder because this is their livelihood. I mean, it's our livelihood too, because we're dispatching, we're trying to provide a service, but it's hitting them harder because they are the ones who are actually physically moving these products across the country. But if less of these products are coming in, then they have less to move, making less money. So, any comments on that?
Thank you for explaining that.
Any comments on that? Hopefully that was explained a little bit. But that's what's going on, really. I mean, that's the behind-the-scenes stuff. That's economics. That's how the economy is working right now. That's how the economy works. So if we are going to continue to be in the transportation industry, so now we have to shift our paradigm in the sense that, okay, we're dispatchers, so how do we make money ourselves? If we see that the spot market rates are being affected by tariffs or whatever outside influences that are affecting the spot market rates, then we as dispatchers say, okay, well, let's shift our focus from spot market to contracts, and let's get direct shippers to get our carriers on, loads as opposed to dealing with brokers. So we just got to change our paradigm, our focus, and how we think about it. So there's still money to be made. It's just a different methodology in doing so. So once you understand the game, then you can play it a little bit better, because it's just not about, getting a load, booking a load. Everybody can do that, but understanding the game. So.
Right. Thank you so much.
So I have one more question to ask.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You were talking about not sending the carriers in areas that hard to come out. How would someone like me beginning to do this job know what area, like Florida? You mentioned Florida. Is it a whole state of Florida or a certain area? Is it any kind of load boat that would clarify that so that we won't send them into that area?
Yes, ma'am. We have resources on our site here, but the one of the ones that we use is called DAT Trend Lines, and let me bring that up. And the other one is the hot market map. We have a hot market map, and then we have DAT Trend Lines for certain equipment types. And these websites are dynamic in the sense that they change week to week, sometimes days, but it's color-coded based off of the equipment type. And the darker the color, the more hot the market is for that particular equipment type. In this case, under the hot market map for a dry van, the market area. So the legend here is the darker the color, you got more loads. Let's change the dynamic, the current one. So we're changing the time frame to current, and we're changing market area. We can say state, region. You can change it anything on market area. So let's say state. and we apply the filter. So now we break it down by states for dry vans, and let's select flatbeds, apply the filter. It's going to change the color to green. So the darker the color, the hotter the market, okay? That's what that means. That's how you read that. Reefers are going to change. I think it's going to change to like blue maybe. Yeah, blue. So that's one. But the main one that I use is right here. It's called DAT trend lines, okay? So we have a concept called load to truck ratio. So for so where it says 12 plus loads to one truck. So every load to one truck ratio, that's what that means. So if you got 12 plus loads to one truck, that means that your probability of getting a load in that area has increased 12-fold. So whatever that number is, or range of numbers, like 5.6 to 11.9, then your load to one truck ratio is 5.6 to 11.9 times that you will get a load in that area for that one truck. So in other words, the darker the color, the greater your probability of getting a load. So for a specific equipment type. So in this case, reefer, you can do it for flatbed, you can do it for dry van. So let's say reefer. First, let's check the reefer rates. Right now, as we stand, the cents per mile, right? So for reefers, in the Midwest area, $2.56 a mile, $1.84 the Northeast, $1.96 in the Southeast, in the Southwest, $2.03, and in the West, it's $2.24. So you follow me so far on that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so if I'm averaging $2.56 for a reefer, this is national rate. I would probably try to keep my reefer trucks in the states that have the highest cents per mile rates going. So I would send my truck, let's say this is Ohio, so I would just keep them running in these states. Basically, I may go down, if I want to go somewhere else, I may go to another state like out west, but these, wherever the cents per mile states are, I would just try to keep my trucks in those states. Right? That's what I would do. And then of those, let's say 256. So the Midwest region, 256 cents per mile for the rates. Let's go to the demand and the capacity, or the load to truck ratio, right? And let's focus on those Midwestern states that had the $2.56 per mile range. Right here, North and South Dakota for a reefer right now, you're getting 12 plus loads per one truck ratio in those states. I would probably keep my guy running back and forth there, maybe over here to Wisconsin, but back and forth. So because you're guaranteed to get a load, if the higher your load to truck ratio is, the better the chance of you getting a load out of that state. You can even send them over here to Idaho. For a reefer, there's potatoes over there. You can get loads out of there coming back over to North Dakota or South Dakota. So the darker the color of the state, I would keep my carriers moving in that area. That's how you set up and dispatch your carriers. So now you can change your equipment type to a dry van. Let's look at the national rates for a dry van. So as compared to the reefer, they're a little bit lower. Like for a reefer in the Midwest, they were $2.56 or 65 cents. They're $2.09. But if you insist on having a dry van carrier, then again, it seems like for every equipment type, the Midwest states are the ones that have the higher cents per mile rate. So let's go to a flatbed and see if that's true for a flatbed. If the Midwestern states for a flatbed is higher than all the other, and lo and behold, it is. So what does that tell you as a dispatcher? If you see for the three major equipment types that all three equipment types cents per miles were high in the Midwestern states, what does that tell you as a dispatcher?
Stay in those states.
Exactly. Exactly. So these are the trend lines. Stay in those. So you can. It don't matter what equipment type. Now, stay in those states. So now you decide to stay in those states. So now the next thing I would do as a dispatcher, I would choose. I got the states that I want to stay in because of the cents per mile rate. Now I would choose the equipment type that has the highest cents per mile for those states. And I think it was reefer, right? It was $2.56. There you go. So now I found the states that had the highest cents per miles in the country, the region, which is the Midwest, and then I got the equipment type that had the highest cents per mile in that region. So now I got my niche, right? So now you have a niche. You have reefers in the Midwest. So now all you got to do now is just focus on finding loads for those areas, or even finding carriers who live in those areas and keep them running close to home. And that's the art of dispatching. So it's all about strategies. You guys follow me?
That was very helpful. Thank you.
So do you have trend lines? And let me send you the this is free. I'm gonna send you the link though. Let me copy this link and put it into the chat. So that's that one, and then the hot market one. I still need to figure out the best use case for this second link, the second website to use this better. Once I figure this out a little bit better, there's still load-to-truck ratio, reefers, and then the darker states. See, even in Canada. So now, but when you're dealing with Canada, now you're dealing with international borders and all that stuff. So there's different requirements going up into Canada, staying in Canada, and coming back down to the U.S. There's a lot of red tape. You don't want to get too far involved in that. You want to get used to doing the U.S. states. But for the hot market map, you can group under the time frame by the previous 30 days or however you want. So the current time frame is now. You can select state, region, select region for reefers and see what's going on. So the hot market region for a reefer is right here, like the Midwest again, but it's like Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri. So if you go over to your, and there it is, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, right here. Nebraska, Kansas, or Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas, Missouri. So there you go. Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri. Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, right there. So you compare the hot market map for that same equipment type to the trend lines for that equipment type reefer, cents per mile, load to truck capacity, load to truck ratio, I'm sorry. So let's switch it over to demand and capacity for that region. We got Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri. If you notice when you put your cursor on it, it'll give the initial of the state, and it'll give the load to truck ratio for that state. So I know KS is Kansas, I know NE is the initial for Nebraska, and I know MO is the initial for Missouri. So we're comparing the two websites, the trend lines to the hot market for load to truck ratios and other features. So I sent the two links to you guys to kind of play with that and then just go to a load board and look for loads for that commodity in those areas and see what their cents per mile is paying, and then if they're paying decent enough, then do your truckers path carrier search in those states. Just target those specific states, and then go after carriers in those states who have that equipment type. So now you're drilling down and getting very granular and very specific to the hot markets and the demands for that state, for that equipment type and that commodity. So now you're getting very specific. You're targeting and finding what's called a niche. So, you follow that?
That's very helpful. Thank you so much.
So yeah, so you go to Truckers Path, right? So we found our niche, right? We said, okay, reefers are paying good. They're paying good in the Midwest. We figured that out, right? The national rates in the Midwest. We figured out the hot markets, loads of truck ratios is not in the Midwest. I'm gonna close that one. Okay, so let's go to. So we'll say, okay, well let's do a carrier acquisition. Let's look for carriers in those areas then for that equipment type. So you'll log into whatever load board that you want to use to find it in, and then you'll go even into DAT. You could go into DAT Truckers Edge and look for carriers as well. So let's do this one. Let's go to Truck Search and Truckers Path, and we had the states were Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri, right? So let's select one of those states. I don't think we can select more than one. We can only select one at a time. So let's say Kansas was one, Nebraska, so this is in alphabetical order. So let's say Kansas, equipment type was the reefer, and let's make sure our safety rating was satisfactory. We may not have any, but we'll see. So there's no trucks in Kansas, no reefers in Kansas right now, apparently. What was the other one? Nebraska and Missouri. So let's see about Missouri. So we got one person there. Nelson is. I know this person. So Nelson and Son. So he's over there. So he's in. And then let's look at the other one. So Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. Let's see if there's any in Nebraska. So this is how you would drill down to see. So there's no carriers, no reefer carriers in Nebraska right now. What, are they out of town? So, and then let's do another thing. Let's go to DAT trend lines. DAT Truckers Edge, if I remember correctly. My internet is moving at a snail's pace, apparently. Let me log out of some. Okay, so we was Nebraska, Missouri, and Kansas. So let's say we found one in, I think Nelson and Sons was here. Yeah. So you would open it up, of course, get their email if you have run the email campaign, phone number, MC, of course, look them up in Stafer, vet them out to make sure that they are not part of a brokerage and so on and so forth. And then let's see if we can find some in DAT Truckers Edge. Somebody else is logged in. Let's log in anyway. We kick them out for a second. And let's go up to our tools, right? And DAT directory. And see if we can find some trucks in. Let's research new business partners. And let's look for the state. Now, can you select more than one state in this option? So Kansas, let's see if we can select more than one. And you can. Okay, so Kansas, I think it was Missouri. I hit the control button, and then hit the click the and Nebraska, right? So we're looking for, and we're looking for carriers. I don't know the company names. I don't know the cities, but I got the states, and I got a radius of, let's say, 100 miles. And let's see if we can find some. I can't select the city because I'm selecting more than one state for the city. So I may have to select just one state starting out. I can't select more than, it's asking me for a specific city in that particular state. So let's select Kansas and let's say Topeka, Kansas, which I think is the capital. Okay, so we got 500 matches. So we got 500 carriers. So now we would just have to determine out of these 500 carriers, right? You guys heard that number, right? 500 carriers. We would have to vet these out and see which ones meet our criteria of being a reefer carrier, because those are the highest cents per mile carriers in the region that we've vetted out, or in the zone that we've vetted out that pays pretty good, which is the Midwest zone, Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri. And that's how you do it, folks. That's a process. So then you would call and get information, or better yet, let's click on one and determine if we can determine if they are a reefer carrier. So here's more information about a specific express logistics. They are out of Kansas City, Missouri. Let's scroll down. They are a carrier broker, so I don't want to deal with them. Carrier/broker. Let's select the next one. 5-star. They're just a carrier, right? General freight, household goods, beverages, paper products. So that may be, they're a dry van. Even though it says beverages, but paper products, you're not going to put in a reefer. So you click on one, and it's, okay, they're out of service, I think this one is. The main thing you want to make sure is that their entity type is carrier, and the commodity that they're hauling, they're general freight. So they're not a reefer. That's a dry van. They are carrier, dry bulk, so they're a dry van. So now you know how to look and see what equipment type. This is general freight, so that's a dry van. They are a carrier authorized for property. So you have 500 here in this state alone. But we need to get to one that's going to be a reefer. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So carrier, commodity, general freight, fresh produce, refrigerated food, beverages, meat, and paper products. The reason why paper products and general freight is listed there, because sometimes you can cut your reefer unit off and use it as a dry van. But this tells me when it says fresh fruit and especially refrigerated products and beverages, they are a reefer. So here's one right here. So it's a one-man, two-driver, so it might be teams company, and this is their information. So this could be a potential carrier under a dispatch agreement in the zone that you selected for yourself based off of your research. You guys follow that?
Yep, got it.
So Charles.
Yep. I didn't hear you. Someone was asking a question, but it kind of...
It's me. It's Rose.
Okay. Yep.
I can see on your screen right now that the insurance they have on file is 700 and... Wait a minute. What's it?
Yeah, 750.
And 50. Yeah. So they're not required to have $1 million on file.
They are not required to have $1 million on file. The minimum for the carrier is, the BIPDs are 750, but brokers require $1 million to run. Well, I should say certain brokers require $1 million to be coverage under their brokerage, because they are contracted with the shippers. The brokers are. And the shippers, one of the requirements for a broker to work with them is that their carriers need to have at least $1 million coverage. So if you have a shipper that you are a broker for that has that requirement, then you're going to pass that requirement on to the carrier and saying, if you want to run loads for us, you need to up your insurance an extra $250,000 to $1 million. And that's just a phone call to your insurance agent. I need to bump up my insurance coverage, and that's an extra maybe $100 a month or whatever that difference will be, because it's just adding to the cost of your premiums per month to have an extra $250,000 coverage to your insurance. All right?
Okay, thank you.
But you guys understand what I did? I went into that Trucker's Edge, went to the tools area, then that directory, right? And then selected research new business partners, and then selected one of the states that we determined based off of our research. I think it was Kansas, and then you got to choose a city, and then you found the result set, and then just figured out based off of the commodity that they haul that they are the equipment type that you are looking for your potential carrier to dispatch for. And that's how that's done. Now, I meant to be on here for 1 hour, to end up being 2 anyway, but that's fine. Any other questions? I hope I explained it in a way that was understanding for you guys. And of course, as always, put my contact information. And I'm going to look into gradually and progressively bringing new carriers on under a dispatcher agreement with Exodus and just pushing them to you guys starting out for 50-50 commission split. Now, if you're working 50-50 commission split as a sub-dispatcher, what we'll do is we'll get the carrier under agreement at Exodus, and then we will send you the what you would need to successfully book the loads. You don't need the dispatch agreement in your possession. We'll keep that. But you do need their profile and their other documents. So when you're calling the brokers and shippers, you'll book the load. And all we ask is once you get the Raycon is to CC Exodus Logistics at LLC@yahoo.com so I can invoice the carrier once they deliver the load. And then once they pay us, we pay you your percentage. Just like I used to do with LaWanda. Every time I get a Raycon and the carrier paid, I just paid her, sent her a PayPal money, and it was flowing. So that's how that'll work. So over the coming next weeks or so, we'll be and maybe the new year. I'll probably start fresh, like a new year kind of thing, to start getting more so back into building the carrier base from the perspective of sub dispatchers. So you could, and I'll probably limit the number of carriers sub-dispatchers will dispatch for starting out, because being a beginner sub-dispatchers, you don't want to get too overwhelmed with a lot of carriers. So maybe 3 will be the limit. And that may be one of each of the major equipment types, 1 drive-in, 1 flatbed, 1 reefer. So if I got 5 sub-dispatchers and each of them have 3 carriers, that's 15 carriers right now that we're that's more than enough to maintain a lifestyle, right? You could, but you have 3 and you're getting 50% of the load starting out. So the goal for you as a sub-dispatcher is to keep those 3 running consistently. And then your percentage will increase to the point where now you may be getting like 60-40, 70-30, and then the cap, the ceiling to that will be 80-20. You'll get 80% of it, because you're, as a sub-dispatcher, you're doing all of the work. The carriers are just under Exodus. And then let's say, for example, you get to a place where, okay, Charles, I know enough. I found my own carrier. I don't need that the training wheels anymore. You can have your carriers back or give it to another potential sub-dispatcher. I want to go ahead and book loads for my own carriers. And that's cool. And then that's the point, for you to graduate and move on with your own carriers. So use this platform as a training platform for you to do that. So in the coming new year, that's what I'm probably going to progress to do. So by saying that, what I'll probably do is start getting back on the phones, calling in the trainings, calling the carriers, getting them under a dispatch agreement myself, and then assigning those carriers to sub-dispatchers who are enrolled subscription-based members of the platform. That's the only caveat, or I should say requirement, is if you want to participate in the sub-dispatching portion of the training, where you get the hands-on learning experience through doing, then the requirement is you have to be an enrolled member, subscription-based enrolled member of Dispatcher 101 training for beginners. That's only right. So with that being said, any other questions?
That sounds good to me.
Yep.
Sounds good.
I just gotta find the time to do it.
Yeah. Let me know.
Yep, and I'll be
Tell
making.
me when you first started.
Yeah, I'll be making the announcements on the Facebook groups and the trainings, recordings, and different things like that. So, and then emailing the subscription-based members, like coming announcements or coming attractions, and it'll be on the website too. You know, coming attractions under the. Matter of fact, let me bring that up here. I may edit the website and. Because it should be under ELLC services. ELLC stands for Exodus Logistics Learning Center. So, waiting for the screen to come up here. So under ELLC services, there should be a sub-dispatcher. Yeah, the sub-dispatcher form. So that I even created a form for sub-dispatchers where you can, like the dispatch agreement and profile, people who are interested in being sub-dispatchers can click here and actually fill out the form, submit it, and it'll go to my email, and I will see that if you haven't already done it. So, and there it is. So, but I just need to tweak it a little bit more and go from there. So, all right, guys. I will see you Sunday, unless something changes. I will see you Sunday for the next live training. Of course, any questions? My phone number is there. My email is there as well in the chat. And this recording will be on the YouTube channel and on the website under the training link under Dispatcher 101. All right, guys, have a good evening. I will see you Sunday. And if you have any questions, you're welcome. You're welcome, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks.